stand for a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comments. Members of the public are invited to address the authority regarding any item that is not listed on the agenda. Is there anyone wishing to have any cards? Okay. We go to 1.0, approval of minutes. Have a first. I don't know who made it.
Hudson and Romick.
Hudson and Romick. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Consent calendar. Move approval. I have a first. I have a second. Call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. I forgot that, Molly. All right. Here we go. We now will move into regular agenda items. Our first one, 4A, APC 4A15.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. This item is being presented for consideration of adopting the CalPERS health vesting requirements for future annuitants hired on November 1st or after. This is not a new benefit, but we are simply refining this benefit. A team of Randy, Lindsay, Brian, and myself reviewed this to look at it from a financial, legislative, and human resources perspective. We considered three options. One, staying status quo. Employees would only need 5 years of CalPERS service from any agency to qualify for health benefits at 95% of the monthly premiums. This option is a potential liability, although no one has exercised it to date. The second option was to seek legislation. This would have been nearly a year-long road to craft our own version of a vesting package and would have required a sponsor for the bill, and there are many unknowns during the legislative process. The third option was the CalPERS vesting option, which is readily adopted under current regulations. This option ensured that the program would be administered in the long term for all current and future retirees. Of the three options considered, we felt that the CalPERS health vesting option was the best option. We want to remain an employer of choice, but reduce our long-term risk and potential short-term liabilities through eliminating this loophole. The health vesting requirement will allow a retiree health benefits equivalent to active employees, but based upon their CalPERS service credit. The minimum employer contribution under this vesting is equal to the state contribution amount and is calculated with the 190 formula. The employee must have a minimum of 10 years of CalPERS credited service to receive 50% of the designated employer contribution. They can earn an additional 5% per year with a cap at 20% of 100% of the employer contribution. 5 of those years must be with the authority. This is a key attribute for the authority to close this loophole. The employee must retire from the authority within 120 days of separation or have 20 years of service, or if they retire on disability, they're excluded. Current employees will not be affected, but on an annual basis, they are provided the opportunity to individually, the mic seems to be going in and out, to individually elect to be subject to these vesting requirements. Here's a scenario. Let's use Randy, for example. He came to work for the authority in 2010. He already had 27 years of CalPERS credit. He was over 50. He could have worked,
Just barely.
AKA retirement age. He could have worked 6 months and then retired and got 95% of employer contributions toward health insurance. This is the loophole that we're trying to eliminate. Luckily, Randy has stayed with the authority for over 9 years and didn't leave us in 6 months. We want to hire for the right fit and encourage our employees to stay long-term. Today, we're seeking your support to adopt Resolution 1950A, which would allow the authority to be subject to Government Code Section 22893, thus establishing the CalPERS health vesting requirements for future annuitants effective November 1st, 2019, and adopt Resolution 1951A, which is administrative to change the health vesting from 95% Kaiser Bay Area Basic to 95% Kaiser Region 1, which we adopted earlier this year. And that would be effective January 1st, 2020. This concludes my presentation. I'll take any questions that you may have.
Questions of staff? No.
Just from APC point of view, I want to thank you, Brian, Randy, everybody that worked on this. This is a good catch. And as we're moving forward, we've got some retirements coming up. This really in the long term will potentially save us money, but it also puts us in a position that people are coming here because they want to stay here and work here. So really want to say a big thank you, all of you, for doing this. I'd move the item.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Before we move the item, is there anyone from the public wishing to make comments on this item?
Mr. Chair, may I just say that that was an excellent report?
Yes.
Concise, to the point, and I love the example.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Any more of that for the record? Okay, everything being said, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
And thank you, as he said. Good job. 4.85, update on MTC Regional Growth Framework for priority.
Good evening, Chair and Commission. My name is James Hindkamp, Associate Transportation Planner here at CCTA. I am here to present this item with the objective of informing this board of recent cooperation between our staff and MTC as they prepare for a planned Bay Area update, which is the regional transportation plan that is federally and state mandated to provide long-range transportation planning for the Bay Area region.
I'd like to say something before you start. I think this is one of your first presentations. Do not be alarmed. Relax. Yeah.
We don't
Am I giving off a vibe?
Yeah, in other words, we will be nice. So now you can proceed. Take a deep breath and you're good.
Thank you, Chair. So, as I was mentioning, in preparation for Plan Bay Area 2050, MTC has introduced new criteria that we were asked to review, including transit-rich and connected communities. These are new criteria for priority development areas, and they have also introduced a priority production area category. And to quickly review for benefit of the public, PDAs are a category for long-range planning purposes that are infill locations intended for significant housing and job growth, as well as to meet state and regional air quality mandates, and also to improve access for all communities. And then priority production areas are a new pilot category proposed by MTC, and these are areas of industrial activity that would have local and regional significance, including supporting middle wage jobs for the future. So this slide presents details about the new criteria. And I would like to spend just a little bit of time on this one because we have received questions at the committee level that could be addressed through these details. Basically, one of the questions is, why is this new criteria even being proposed in the first place? And the short answer is that MTC, in its review of past long-range past regional transportation plans and Plan Bay Area, are seeking to ensure that local jurisdictions meet the program criteria with more specific performance standards. And so these criteria provide transit and geographic proximity thresholds. Starting on the PDA criteria side, to qualify for transit-rich, a PDA must have at least one of 3 transit service options available, including ferry, rail, and bus service transit of 15 minutes in both directions. So that's the bi-directional terminology there. And that would be during the weekday peak periods of 6 to 10 a.m. and 3 to 7 p.m. On the connected community side, it's a lower bus transit frequency threshold. However, they are 2 policy requirements, and it's an either-or requirement, being located in a high-resource area or having VMT reduction policies. So you'll notice the asterisk notation, and that is important because that is the footnote that refers to having the majority of a PDA must be within 1/2 mile of these aforementioned transit services. So that is how MTC is going to define these areas going forward in Plan Bay Area 2050. So for purposes of this exercise, authority staff were asked to review 15 specific PDAs within Contra Costa, and we were asked to determine whether they meet these criteria. We basically essentially took a road tour with transit operators around the county and also spoke with local jurisdiction planning staff to get their feedback, make sure that we all understood whether or had the same data or similar data, and use that information to develop initial recommendations for what PDA or PPA designation should be submitted to MTC. And the details follow on this slide, the following slide. Here you'll see numbering of 26 to 40, and this is purely to match the material in your report packet. In the staff report, there's an attachment B that summarizes the rationale for selecting these designations. And again, these are recommendations, and they are not, this does not represent an approval by MTC. There's still more review to take place. So these are the 15 that CCTA were asked to review. And you may also ask that, well, these do not show the entirety of all PDAs in Contra Costa. And the explanation for that is that in the same attachment B, there are 3 batches of PDAs that are listed. And the first batch are 15 PDAs that already qualify for MTC's newly proposed PDA criteria. Some of those include City of El Cerrito, the La Miranda communities, also Walnut Creek, to name a few. There are others. The second batch of PDAs, there are 10 of those, were specifically for review by the local jurisdictions themselves. And then the third batch of PDAs, which you see on the screen, we covered. So I'll conclude this slide with 2 points. First, that the recommendations shown here are updated since the Planning Committee last saw this information, and staff believe this is actually for the better, because in the continuing discussions with MTC since that last meeting, we gained clarity on the qualifying transit service thresholds and learned that a single bus line that has bidirectional 15-minute frequency would qualify for transit-rich. So actually, we expanded the pool of transit-rich PDAs in this case. So there are actually more that we are recommending here. And my final point is that jurisdictions who wish to modify their existing PDAs are required to submit separate paperwork under a separate process that the planning staff should be aware of. And authority staff have been in contact with those jurisdictions to supply data as needed. I would also add that in the lead up to preparing this report, we received some additional correspondence from MTC that Brentwood intends to bring forward some new PDA proposals. And these are 3 that we were able to quickly determine based on Tri-Delta transit commitments that they would be qualified for transit-rich PDAs as well. So this is in addition to the original 15 that we reviewed. So finally, this outlines the process that MTC proposes to undertake. And again, staff will avail themselves to continued discussion with local jurisdictions and MTC as long as the process takes place. So I'm available for questions.
Very good. Questions? Yes, ma'am. Deborah.
Just wondering, I didn't see Pittsburgh on that list anywhere. Did Pittsburgh submit anything for review?
Station is number 30.
That's Bay Point. That's not really Pittsburgh.
Yeah, this is Pittsburgh Bay Point under Contra Costa County jurisdiction. Pittsburgh.
The city of Pittsburgh is not.
They probably
listed.
would have submitted under local jurisdiction review as far as and I can verify that if you wish.
The Railroad Avenue E-BART station is number 21. Yeah, it's number 21 requested by.
Right, and to verify,
Plus 20
Pittsburgh
is downtown.
was requested for local review. So their staff would have been asked directly by MTC to make that determination.
And also, just so I can share that also MTCA BAG was out on a tour of the communities that are in alignment with the northern waterfront. So they came out to get a snapshot of each of the communities going from Pinot into Brentwood. So that was a good visiting tour and an opportunity for them to actually have a visual of that corridor.
Kevin?
And all the cities were participated in that that do have PPA.
Kevin?
Yeah, I noticed we updated it since the planning meeting, and I'm just curious as to why the potential planning area in Oakley was originally designated as a connected community. The same bus lines and the same service provide services to both downtown and the planning area. I'm wondering why they're both not now transit rich, since they're both serviced by the same runs at the same times.
I'm sorry, which one? Oh, the downtown Oakley?
The downtown and the potential planning area are both serviced by the same bus routes, same bus numbers. So why are they different? And the Oakley downtown Oakley station with the Amtrak coming by 2021, we'll have a train station there, which should make it more transit rich because we'll have mass transit in downtown Oakley.
Well, regarding the difference between downtown and the potential planning area in Oakley, according to feedback that we received from Tri-Delta, they do have similar service, Route 391, that Tri-Delta would be able to reduce from 40 to 30 minutes in the future. For the potential planning area, Tri-Delta indicated in addition that they could feasibly increase Route 300 service to the 15-minute threshold. They did not indicate the same for the downtown area.
So it's the headway.
Right.
Any other questions, comments? Is there anyone from the public who wishes to address us on this topic? Seeing none, entertain a motion. Have a first,
Second.
have a second. Any more discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Moving into correspondence, communication. Letter from CCTA to San Francisco Bay BART. Associated committee reports, commissioners, staffs, chairs' comments. I have none. Commissioners, ex officio representatives, comments? Oh,
I have one. Once again, took BART into the city. You can finish the rest of this sentence.
the escalator
The
broke.
freaking escalators didn't work.
I was going to say, you didn't even need to say what your complaint was. I was just going to say, I'm sorry, because I'm just so used to that.
Okay, executive staff, comment?
Commissioners, I have a couple of comments in the back for the executive director's report. We are being asked to make comments to the Faster Bay Area, so I sent you all our comments on the first go-around. We've had a second go-around with the people at Bay Area Council. I think our message is still the same. It's piling on top of our existing proposal, and it's causing some confusion. And so, if you could separate it out and maybe delay it a little bit, it would help us, because we're being not inundated, but these tax issues are coming up, more tax, and so it's not working out very well for us. We hosted a group from Rhodes, Australia. We talked about our innovation program. At the end, they said they wanted to send or are looking at proposing sending an intern to sit with us over the summer to learn more about what we do into the future. So I thought that was pretty cool. We had a conversation with Spur about our innovation program as well, and then Lindsay reached out to Spur asking for a letter of support for our measure. So thank you for that, Lindsay. I was asked to attend a Diablo Valley Tech Initiative meeting. It's at the Diablo Valley College, and it's a group of professors and industry people that want to try to bring smart jobs to Contra Costa. So we're engaged there. LAFTA's looking to do an extension because I think BART did not want an extension, so now they've created some kind of a JPA or something. So they're studying the alignment. Pardon? Valley Rail. They're studying an alignment and a proposal to go from Tracy all the way in to Dublin, and they're looking at straightening the line. The old railroad line went outside in a kind of a meandering fashion to get up the grade. They can go over 100 miles an hour or 100 miles an hour if they tunnel straight through the mountain, through the Altamont Pass. And so I offered our services. I said, if you want somebody to oversee the design and the construction, we'd be happy to do that. We have experience tunneling through mountains. Ivan, I'm pretty sure, would be really excited about doing that project. He's really excited now just talking about it. And so we made that proposal, so we'll see where that goes. And in our $520 million Innovate 680, we kicked the first meeting off with all our consultants. So we're trying to get synergy with that. I did go to accept an award from the American Society of Civil Engineers for a Balfour project. That's Balfour State Route 4, 2019 Transportation Project of the Year. And I also failed to mention that we had an award for the same project from the Construction Management Association of America for Balfour. And then we also have one from the American Public Works Association. It's a public works project for Transportation of the Year. So that we are applying for awards, and we're getting a lot of recognition for that. And lastly, we competed for an automated driving system demonstration grant. There were 71 applications, 8 applications from California, including the City of Fremont, City of Los Angeles, Department of Transportation, City of Sacramento, San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency, Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, Metro, Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority, San Joaquin, and the Pea Shooter, and we actually won the award. So we're excited about. We got $7.5 million for 3 projects. The first project is to figure out exactly how many autonomous vehicles Interstate 680 can hold, and come up with, can they connect to other modes of transportation? So that's much needed. The second proposal is we have an absentee rate at the county hospital in Martinez, and so we've worked with the hospital doctor folks who speak actually a different language than we do. But we're trying to start out with a minivan with self-docking wheelchair technology so that in the future, if you have a self-driving car, you're going to have somebody dock the wheelchair or it have to dock itself. And so USDOT thought that was a great idea, we'll ultimately retrofit that van to be self-driving, and they'll have an attendant. But with all the sensors on that vehicle, you're going to get better information to get better safety metrics. Right now, we measure safety by fatalities and injuries, or fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. So if I gave you a comment and said, this year we had a 0.08 fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, is that a good year or is that a bad year? I mean, nobody knows. It makes no sense to the administration, and so they want better metrics. And so how about near miss, so that we can go out and correct a problem before it becomes a problem. We can be proactive instead of reactive. If your anti-lock brake system goes off at a point, you can actually go out and send somebody out and take a look at what's the lack of friction. Can we just scratch the surface, increase friction for a time being, and then put an overlay in and save lives and save injuries? So that's the second. And the lastly is as I get older, and I mentioned this in Clayton, I am getting older. I can't walk as far as fast, and I'm worried about when I go to Rossmore ultimately. I don't want to be hit by somebody else that's older than I am that can't drive as well. And so the idea is to roll out a fleet of self-driving vehicles, shuttles, shared autonomous vehicles in Rossmore, and test whether or not the folks would be picked up, guaranteed ride on-demand service, reduce the amount of cars, lower the greenhouse gases, and lower VMT, and then bring county connection into Rossmore to make the seamless handoff, so connection protection. So give the senior citizens, which I'm rapidly becoming one, an opportunity to have mobility. So this is self-serving for me, but we're still willing to do that. So we appreciate United States Department of Transportation, Secretary Chow's office, for allowing us the opportunity to carry on with this initiative. So we're excited about that. So
Did
that's my
Los
report.
Angeles win anything? Oh, cool, thanks.
We are the only agency on the West Coast, and there were 71 applications, state departments of transportation, big universities, and of course the Pea Shooter put in an application. And it's the ranking order of the order of how we applied, and we were number 62 out of 73. So we waited to the end, but the results were good. So that's my report.
Just a quick correction. It wasn't Valley Rail, it's Valley Link. Valley Rail is an extension of ACE, but Valley Link is the project they're talking about using EBART-like project to connect.
Whatever it takes.
Hudson?
Yeah, let's go back to that Road Australia, Randy. What do you need for us to do this? Or is the intern coming, or?
No, so we're going to talk to Roads Australia about that intern. It's from their government, so it's either their regional government and/or the national government, but they want to send somebody in, because what we did is we made a presentation to the 12 people. Some were government, private sector, academia, 12 coming in through the United States to see, talking about innovation. And what we did is you know, I'm really shy and I don't like to talk much, and so I gave off a portion of the speech to our intern, Natalie Alberg, who was, she's going to UCLA as a student. Well, I said, why don't you give the speech on microtransit since you wrote the report? And so she did that, and they started thinking, she said, I'm an intern here, and this is what I've learned, and this is the report that I was asked to write, and these are the results. The only mistake she made is she got caught up in a spoof for April Fool's Day where one of the microtransit was a pogo stick. And so she was showing me this, and I said, how do you use I can't use a pogo stick. Why would somebody use a pogo stick for a microtransit option? And it turns out it was an April Fool's Day joke. But other than that, nobody caught it. But it was great. And the ones that did catch it thought it was a joke and it was like an icebreaker. And it worked out great.
The only reason I asked, I know I went over in November, and the guy sitting next to me was going over about the autonomous vehicle. He was with the Navy, and they are using autonomous Navy ships. One's actually gone from San Diego to Honolulu without anyone. So, they're extremely interested. If they can bring them over, what does it take to get them here? What do we need to do? Let's agendize it and see what we can do.
Yeah, the only thing that we'd have to do is come up with insurance, which would probably be no problem. They might even pay for the employee's insurance. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward.
Good.
All right. Obviously, it's all good stuff from this agency. We are now going to, by the way, we're going to adjourn this meeting, right? Right. No, I'm getting ready to go to that. But, I mean, we have no other items on this agenda. So we're going to go into closed session. So we're going to ask everyone to leave, please. And then we will have a special meeting that you can come back in. And Randy, could you?
I'll come back now.
Hello.
We don't need them to do it.
Time to report out.
Okay. We have, we report out from closed session. We had directed staff to take action. Now we move into,
No, now we're adjourned.
oh, now we're adjourned. I'm gonna miss you, but I'm gonna sit right beside you though, coming back, right beside you.